This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And welcome in, folks, to another edition of Open Mic Night. I am your host, Noah Taluki, and on today's episode 2 of Hard Knocks, just released on Tuesday on HBO. I want to talk about that episode and a couple of takeaways that I saw from the second series. And also, we're going to step away a little bit from reality TV, and we're going to get into the reality of the game, if you will. The 27-23 loss that the Lions took in week 1 of the preseason to the Atlanta Falcons at Ford Field. I want to give a little bit of some takeaways from that game as well. But hopefully everybody had a great week out there. A little bit late, I know, again on the podcast, but you know, a lot of stuff going on. Ever since I ended my internship at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, been really busy trying to get this 100 Years of Football book done for John Carroll Football. Of course, as you know, if you're new to the podcast, you know, I'll talk about it a lot, but I am the graduate assistant in the sports information department at John Carroll University, which is a small Division III school just outside of Cleveland. And one of our big things that we have going for ourselves is how we have a really, really strong connection in the National Football League. We have 30-plus alums right now who are working in the NFL in some capacity, whether that's coaching, front office, communications, all kinds of different areas. Ticket sales, Ben Milsom, the director of ticket sales for the Buccaneers, is a John Carroll alum. So, you know, it's really, really cool, and it's really unique, especially for a small school. 3 general managers, Nick Caserio of the Texans, Tom Telesco of the Chargers, and David Ziegler of the Raiders. 3 general managers, all John Carroll alums. So, you know, and this is our 100th football season, you know, in the fall. And so for the last year and a half or so, I've been working on this record book to put on our website, basically, which lists all of our statistical accomplishments and a little bit of our summary of our history and all-time roster, numerical roster. So just trying to get that book done before our first game, September 4th, against Washington and Jefferson, the alum, or the school of Roger Goodell. Yes, Roger Goodell was a graduate of W&J in the early 80s. So just trying to get that book done, and it's taken up a lot of my time. But definitely have at least a little bit of time to do this episode, even if it's a little late on some of the latest Hard Knocks and the Lions. All Lions as we move forward to their first game against the Philadelphia Eagles in week 1 of the regular season. By the way, big shout out to Scotty Nelson of the Seattle Seahawks. He's been on the podcast before, my former high school classmate at the University of Detroit Jesuit. He made his preseason debut for Seattle last week against Pittsburgh. I actually went to Heinz Field and watched the game. Actually, it's not even called Heinz Field anymore, but I watched the game and got to see him play. He made 3 tackles. And looked really good out there, especially in the second half. Played all the special teams, played safety for the whole second half as well. So it was really, really cool to see that moment. And then yesterday, on Thursday, he actually played against the Bears, and one of our old classmates, A.J. Thomas, who played for Western Michigan, he is on the Bears right now. So it was cool to kind of see them interact. Both of them play defense, so they never really versed each other on the field, but it was still really cool to see how two guys in the NFL from my class at U of D. So big shout out to the Cubs representing in the NFL. The last NFL player that the Cubs had, I believe, was Connor Barwin. I think he retired in 2016, 2017, something like that. But Connor Barwin is a U of D alum, in case anyone out there did not know that, from Hazel Park, just north of Detroit. So big shout out to Scotty Nelson. Hopefully he makes the team. And he looked good on special teams, at least what I could see. And every team needs some special teams guys, and that's how these undrafted free agents make the team. So hopefully Scotty is there to stay in rainy Seattle, Washington. All right, so I want to talk about the episode number 2 of Hard Knocks. Of course, I did get HBO for a month. I'm paying $10 a month for it. So that's after this month, I'm done. I don't want to watch any more HBO. All I'm getting HBO for is for specifically Hard Knocks. A couple takeaways. I didn't think this episode was the first episode was awesome. I still think the second episode was good. I just didn't. It was not as good as maybe I thought it would be. I thought there'd be it was a little bit more meeting room based. There was a little bit of, and that's what I keep saying. I want a little bit more interactions with the players and coaches in the meeting room. Now, the one with Swift, which I'll get to in a minute, with Deuce Staley in the meeting room, that was great. I want more of that. I want more interaction with the coaches. Not, get away from the entertainment. I don't care. Honestly, I mean, it's cool, it's fun, but I don't really want this show to be watered down by Deuce Staley and Aaron Glenn, as Mike Valenti said, having a street fight out there. Basically, and as they're going back and forth at practice, jawing back and forth. I don't want that. I don't want this to be watered down. I want to see meeting room interactions. I want to see it get real with some of these guys. I don't want to just see a bunch of, friendliness and all this entertainment. I know. I want to see the real stuff of what it takes to survive an NFL training camp. So that's kind of like my big takeaway. One of them, though, I did really enjoy the part about Malcolm Rodriguez. Oh, my gosh, Rodrigo. They really rave over this guy, and every team needs guys like Rodrigo, and that's, of course, his nickname that was given to him by Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator. They need a guy who can really hit hard and play with a big chip on his shoulder. And I got to say, that part where they talked about how they were in the meeting room, Calvin Shepard, the linebackers coach, he was really getting on the linebackers. See, this is the stuff I like. That stuff where it gets real. He said one of the coaches that is in the building, and I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's Hank Fraley, because he's the only guy, one of the only guys that's really been there before Dan Campbell. I don't know if it's Hank Fraley or one of the other coaches, but he said there's a coach that said, he's been here for 5 years, this coach. He's never seen a middle linebacker make a play in the gap like that in practice like Malcolm Rodriguez did. And I'm not saying that's the be-all, end-all with this guy, but I'm saying that's a very, very good sign. And you got to remember, this guy was a 6th-round pick from Oklahoma State. I think the one knock on him was his size, 5'11". I was just at the Hall of Fame, in the summer. Sam Mills, 5'9", middle linebacker. He's in the Hall of Fame. If you have talent, you have speed and quickness, and you can hit hard, play the run as well as the pass, you're going to survive in this league. And so far, at least what Hard Knocks has seen. Now, I'm not going to admit I'm some expert. I've watched him at every practice, and I've watched all the game film from the game against Atlanta. But from what I can see, at least in Hard Knocks, this guy can play. This guy can hit. This guy plays with a chip on his shoulder. He hits the gap hard. I mean, you saw him lay out Netflix Reynolds. I think that was Craig Reynolds playing running back. He was trying to block Rodriguez as he was coming on a blitz, knocked him down. I got to say, I mean, for a defense that really lacks energy, this guy could be the spark plug this season. Last year, I didn't think the defense played with a lot of energy. This year, they have young guys like Aiden Hutchinson, who has a nonstop motor. We'll talk about him a little bit later as well. But Malcolm Rodriguez, this guy hits, and he's fast, he's quick. This guy ran a 4.52 40 at the draft, or at the combine, or at his pro day. I can't remember if he got invited to the combine or not, but 4.52, that'll get you places. And so far, hard hitter, loves the game. This is what it's all about, and he's practicing with the ones. This week in the scrimmage, I'm not breaking down the scrimmage. I'm not against the Colts. I know Dave Burkett was saying how, let's pump the brakes on this season after watching him against the Colts. I guess there was some bad plays. Just stop. We're not gonna make or break the season based on one practice, an inter squad practice with the Colts. Like, come on, please, let's stop. Now, the other thing too that I think is really, really interesting is that this guy, like I said, practicing with the ones. I think this guy could be starting week 1. And we know that Alex Anzalone's a captain. We know that he's the middle linebacker from last year, but this guy isn't good. He can't cover. Jared Davis, where's he been? He signed for a year, coming back. Haven't heard much of him at middle linebacker. It seems like Rodrigo is the guy. Malcolm Rodriguez, I think, will be, if I were to bet on it, I would bet Rodrigo is starting by week 1 against the Eagles and playing special teams. I bet he's going to do both. Really, really interesting to see. But definitely one of my favorite players on defense so far, Rodriguez, and he's got that right mentality for a rookie. Calvin Shepard even pointed it out. This is a rookie that's making these plays. He's like, I'll play him. I don't care where he was drafted. I'll play him if he's the best guy. But he was basically motivating the other guys. I got to put a rookie ahead of you vets? Come on, guys, let's go. This is that player mentality that's coming out of these coaches, and I really, really like to see that. I don't think that's something you can't fake. Another takeaway, DeAndre Swift. So, they were talking all about how Deuce Staley was yelling at him on the sidelines after he scored. Guys, he wasn't yelling. He wasn't yelling at DeAndre Swift. He basically just said, okay, nice job. You scored the touchdown in the on the first drive. Great job, but you just got to stay disciplined and run that inside. No reason to bounce that outside. He wasn't yelling at him. He was telling him nice job, but stay disciplined. Now, there was that one play, I think it was on that drive. It wasn't the scoring drive, where Deuce Staley was a little bit fired up and saying, hey, you got to hit that inside. Guys, in the NFL, you need a guy that hits the hole. This is going to be our offense this year with the Lions. It is going to be ground and pound with a top 10, arguably a top 10 offensive line in the league. They are going to be a run-first football team. This isn't going to be a team that stretches the field downfield a whole ton because of the quarterback, Jared Goff. He just can't do that as much. They're really going to ride Swift. And I think what Deuce Staley's trying to say is hit that hole. You have to be a downhill runner, north and south. That's what all running backs are taught, north and south. You can't be bouncing outside. And there was that one play he showed in the film room, how he tried to outrun the safety and he got pushed out of bounds. Make a move, make a guy miss. Use your athletic ability. I can tell Deuce Staley is really trying to mold DeAndre Swift. Now, I'm not trying to make assumptions here. I'm not. But it seemed as though Deuce Staley sort of saw in DeAndre Swift that he kind of lacks that killer mentality in terms of, trying to make guys miss, trying to run downhill. It seems like, and he talked about it, you have potential to be one of the best in the league with your abilities, but it just seems like he needs to fine-tune a couple more things. He's got to really hit that hole hard. Can't be doing stuff like he might have been able to get away with that in college at Georgia. I know this is year 3 now, but in this offense, he's going to have to hit that hole hard, and they're going to need him to be a bell cow. And Jamal Adams, a very good backup running back. He's never going to start over Swift, but he's a guy that can hit the hole hard. They need running backs like that, and I think with Swift, it seems as though they're really trying to fine-tune that running downhill. This is going to be a theme throughout the season. Look at a guy. I'm not comparing Derrick Henry to DeAndre Swift, but look at what Derrick Henry does as a running back. That's a run-first offense in Tennessee. He is one of the best downhill runners in the league, perhaps in the last decade. I'm not saying DeAndre Swift is Derrick Henry, but he needs to have that downhill mentality. That is what's going to help make or break the football team. If DeAndre Swift needs that. He needs that. This is a small comment. They brought out Barry Sanders, him and 222 Rod Wood Drive. But Barry Sanders was out there with Rod Wood and, joking around a little bit. They showed some Barry highlights. I thought that was cool. This is just bringing the little bit of history, football history out of me. But when Barry Sanders was talking about the playing surface, how, these nice manicured fields that they have now. Look at the fields that we were on in 1997, our friend Corey Schlesinger's time right there when he was playing fullback for Barry, how they were at the old Saginaw Valley State. Look at how high that grass was, dry grass. Nowadays, these are perfectly manicured fields, even with grass. And it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day, and part of my project at John Carroll, is with the football history book, is looking at these old football pictures that we have in our archives, and I'm looking at these guys from the 1940s, 1950s, and like they were posing on some of the different, the old practice fields, and gosh, there's so many weeds in these fields, and the grass is probably like 6 inches high. And it's just so beat up. I think John Carroll used to play in a field, or they used to practice in a field that had glass shards in it. You think of the grass now compared to what they had to play back then. The surface really helps, and the surface has really helped make the game faster. And then obviously with the invention of AstroTurf and then eventually field turf, I think that's that was cool. That's so a small side note, but that brought the football history nerd out of me, if you will, a little bit, when Barry talked about how nice the fields are these days, because they were really beat up back then. So thought that'd be a little interesting note. I have a couple other things that I wrote down as well. Aiden Hutchinson, he was highlighted a lot in week 1 of Hard Knocks, a little bit more in week 2 with his family. Nice to see those reactions when he got the tackle for loss in the game. Hutchinson, Dan Campbell brought it up that he talked with him on the practice field before practice one day. He just said, you're really earning it. You're not really doing a lot of talking. You're really earning your spot on this team. And that's really important, especially for a guy drafted number 2 overall. Those rookies, sometimes they can talk, especially for coming from a big-time program. They were the guy, but really keeping your mouth shut and really earning it. And that's going to earn a lot of respect from players, from veterans. Rookies that just do their job, don't talk, really try to get on the same page. And Aiden even said, he's learning every day. He's progressing every day. I really, really like to see that from Hutchinson. And it paid off in the game. And he, I'll tell you this, he has a nonstop motor, this guy. You saw it in the game. Him, he only played a couple drives, but just being able to chase after those quarterbacks. And there was that one penalty that he drew on the Falcons that, if he doesn't hustle in pursuit, that holding call probably doesn't get called. So just those little things, I think, with Aiden, and the little things with his technique, I think are really gonna set him apart. But I've mentioned it before. This guy got better every year at Divine Child. He got better every year at Michigan. I think it's the next step forward, getting better every year with the Lions. This guy has, since high school, has gotten better every single year. So he's never plateaued, in my opinion. He just keeps getting better and better, and really, really good to see from Aiden. That was cool when Amon-Ra St. Brown, they did that little feature on him. He named the 16 receivers and their colleges ahead, who the guys who were drafted ahead of him last year. Really good to see. Just another way for guys to, highlight their chips on their shoulders. That was cool. John Brown, the 2-time Mr. Universe. A lot of us in Detroit know that now. That's him and Equanimous, his brother's trainer. Equanimous, of course, playing for the Bears. Funny question that John talked about. I liked, when was the last time Kevin Durant did a calf raise? Because KD has had all those problems with his Achilles, and those NBA players, looks like their ankles are going to snap in two because of how skinny they are. When was the last time he did a calf raise? Talking about training the whole body. That's good to see. Gosh, he is a tank, Amon-Ra St. Brown. That guy is very chiseled, just like his dad was as a 2-time Mr. Universe back in the day. Big season coming for Amon-Ra. 90 receptions last year in an offense where you're a run first. So it's probably going to be a lot of those same short passes over the middle, and Amon-Ra really doing the work. That's what the passing game, I think, will look like. And then DJ Chark could be more of a deep threat if need be. But I'm curious to see how Quintez Cephas also will fit into this offense. If he's going to be phased out, if they're going to use Tom Kennedy a little bit more, maybe a little more Khalif Raymond. We're going to see for that slot position. That's going to be an interesting battle there. David Blau's wife, I think a lot of diehard Lions fans already know about her. You know, the Olympic athlete training for the Olympics. That was a cool feature on them, I thought. The one thing I did see that I thought was really cool was so if anyone noticed in Hard Knocks, they have the sign in the back of the meeting room. And that sign basically has, you know, these major years in Lions history. 1957, the last Lions championship, NFL championship. 1991, the last postseason victory for the Lions. And I think that's really important, especially from a culture standpoint. And I understand it's just words and then just, you know, but Dan Campbell has made it really clear, and because someone asked him about that, and he said the reason why we have that in the back is you have to know your history. You have to know where you come from. And the Lions' history, as we all know, has not been the most successful of NFL franchises. So being able to have that plastered and people are aware. So he seems to be the first guy that's really kind of embraced this SOL stuff. You know, he says it feeds us. When was the last time a Lions coach said that? It seems like all these Lions coaches want to avoid all this negativity and this and that, but I got to say, Dan Campbell really seems to embrace that SOL because he uses it as motivation to fire his team up. We're done with this crap. You saw it in episode 1 with Jamal Williams. He's sick of this crap. Sick of this 3-13-1 record. Just all about culture. That's a culture thing. All those different phrases on the walls, trying to build somewhat of a culture. And I think Dan Campbell really means it. Really, really good to see. So, I mean, that's kind of my takeaways from the episode 2 of Hard Knocks. I really, really love the series. And, you know, as a diehard NFL fan, I watch every year. As much as I hate the Browns, you know, I still watched, you know, a couple of years ago. So it's just so interesting to see, you know, these guys up close and features on their families and you know, what drives them? What's the chip on their shoulder? What do the coaches think of these guys? That's just the one critique I have with Hard Knocks. Let's get away from the entertainment a little bit, which I thought they did. I thought they did a better job in episode 2. It didn't seem like there was all this entertainment being thrown at you, but I just want a little bit more meetings. I want a little bit more player-coach interactions in the meeting rooms. I want to see them break down more film. The part about DeAndre Swift with Deuce Staley in the meeting room and the part about Malcolm Rodrigo with Kelvin Shepard, love that. I want more of that. Now, this next week, we're probably going to see a lot of footage from the joint practice with the Colts and the Lions, and then obviously the preseason game with the Colts, which is Saturday. I'm not going to break down a whole preview of that game for you, but you know, reports from Indianapolis state that the Lions have not really been having some good days against the Colts. But what am I to say? This is the first time they're going, you know, I should say the second time they're going, you know, live against a team. First time they've practiced against another team. There's always going to be kinks in the system, you know, when you especially in practice, you know. So this is my message to Lions fans: don't overhype on this. You know, like the Dave Burkett put in an article, let's pump the brakes on the season after this practice. No. Guys, we know that there's work to do, especially on defense, because the defense, you know, the offense looked good. The defense did not look as good in the preseason game against Atlanta. Of course, David Blau, you know, they had a chance to protect the lead. David Blau fumbled the snap, and the Falcons scored. But you know, I just don't think Lions fans should be, you know, losing hope on a season based on one practice against the Colts. Let's pump the brakes. I'm excited to see week 2 on Saturday of the preseason against the Colts. I just want to see how well this team moves the ball down the field offensively, of course. See if DeAndre Swift plays or any of the running backs. You know, I just want to see how hard they hit the hole. And defense. Got to be better in pass, especially in pass coverage. Got to be better. Got to be better. Make sure to tune in to all the other great content on the podcast network. Doc and Jock, always a classic. the wrestling podcast, Michigan podcast, football, college football, just a few weeks away. And, let's see how Michigan does without Aiden Hutchinson and how Michigan State does without Kenneth Walker. So two very key players lost to graduation for the Wolverines and the Spartans. And the fan report always talking about Pistons. And don't forget to check out all of John Macaron's fantastic coverage with Sports Illustrated and his coverage of Lions training camp, all things Lions football over on 222 Rodwood Drive in Allen Park. Thank you again, folks, for tuning in, and make sure to tune in next week only on Open Mic Night.